Hello and welcome to the Juggling podcast. My name is Luke Burridge, and thank you to all my Patreon supporters out there for being patient. Joining me today, like always, is Juliane. Say hello, Juliane.
Hello, everyone.
And it has been a while since the last Juggling podcast, but we have had some issues. I say some issues. We were busy, and then Juliane has been ill with kind of some, what is it, bronchitis or something like that?
Really long-lasting and not pleasant.
But you've had some antibiotics now.
I know, some antibiotics now. I need to recover from the antibiotics.
Yes.
We got back to the backlog of things.
Yes, and we're catching up. So I wanted to say thank you very much to all our Patreon supporters. We want to do a monthly podcast, but we didn't manage to get to one at the end of December because we were so busy. And then I went off to TurboFest, and then when I got back, I was busy with other stuff.
Yeah.
Literally, I was busy with doing the top 40 jugglers of the year. And as that was wrapping up, Juliane has got ill, and that's been like the last 3 weeks
and
or so.
And that's just life.
And so very sorry. But I do want to say, yes, let's say actually individually to all our top Patreon supporters. So thank you very much to Callie and Bethany and Sid and Chris and Flo and Hendrik. Thank you very much to everyone there. And Joel and Marshall and Matt Hall. They're all our $10 a month or above people.
Thank you so much.
Also to the people who are at $5, the 5 up 360 level, as it's called, not the qualified juggle. So Jeremy, Juliane, you still support me on Patreon.
I do.
Thank you very much, Juliane. Kathy, Keith, Mark, Merrill, Michael, Mike Moore, Rafa, Statist, the mysterious Mark, and then lots and lots of other people who support us at the Cascade level, which is the $1, €1, £1, £1 New Zealand dollar,
one of whatever
dollar a month that you're going to go for. And also thanks to all the people who are I say thanks, but hello to all the people, because now Patreon has this thing where you can be a follower but not a subscriber.
Okay.
So you're not paying any money, but you're following along with the free feed.
Right.
And because these podcasts started off as exclusive just to the people who paid us money, but then they pretty much just became Patreon is where we publish them to help promote the Patreon and stuff. So hello to all of our non-paying, non-money providing Patreon followers or supporters. I can't remember how it works. Actually, I could probably look at this here. So it says memberships. 59 paid Patreons, but 80 in total. So it's like it's different people. So hello to the 21 people who've decided to follow and become unpaid members. I'm happy with it.
Fun.
Welcome. It's fine.
That's fun. You get notified about new things.
You still get the emails for the free stuff. And maybe you get notifications for the stuff that goes behind the paywall, but I've not actually put very much stuff behind the paywall for a while. I'm just faffing around with my microphone levels here. All right, so let's get on to the news since the last podcast, which was actually back in December.
Yes.
It was after the Fight Night finals. We talked about the European finals, and I said, okay, we'll get ready. Voting is going to open. So we opened the voting. So what I want to do in this podcast is talk about these bits and pieces that we've done.
Yeah.
First, starting off with our travels, we went on a gig. We went to do a show. I went to do some shows on a cruise ship, and you came with me.
I did, which was quite nice and pleasant again to just accompany you again.
Yeah, so we went to Barcelona.
Yes.
And then down to the Canary Islands for Christmas, and then across to Morocco. So you visited Morocco for the first time.
I did.
And I guess the Canary Islands for the first time.
Yeah.
So that was fun. We managed to actually get out and do some tourism stuff, which was good.
Yeah.
And then Juliane got ill from a bug that was going around the cruise ship. And
Surprise.
then I got ill. I got ill from the same bug that was going around the cruise ship.
It's not surprising at all. But also, I got to see some sun in winter, which is amazing. Everybody who lives in a place where you have access to sun all the time, you're lucky.
Yeah. So after Morocco, 2 places, where is it? Casablanca and Tangier.
Yes.
We went to Seville, which was very nice, and Valencia, which was also very nice, walking in the sun there.
Yeah.
That was like
very
New
cute
Year's.
Little cities.
And you saw my show. What do you think of my show?
I love your show. It's evolving. Every time it's something slightly different. And I just love to see the reactions of the people. It's just always so fun, because now I know now I know the behind the scenes. I know what's scripted. I know what isn't scripted. I know what's, what is depending on the audience. Yeah. And that is something you just cannot foresee. So every show is slightly different in that respect. And I love it. It's a round thing. It takes people on a journey.
Even though you've seen... But I guess this is the first time I performed with my new Anthony Gatto balance pole with the hamster ball. Yeah. And I made it so it spins at the top, which was good fun, like the top spinning. When I pull it and now the ball rotates. Anyway, it's a little bit complicated to talk about on a podcast, but someone has requested me to do show the design of this balance pole. So in the next few weeks, I have got various different videos that I want to get to.
Okay.
Again, I'm not going to get back to weekly vlogs or anything, but one of a few ideas of videos, but one of them is I'm going to do an update on performing Anthony Gatto's 5-ring and balance pole trick.
Yes.
Because I've done 2 previous videos about it, but the last one was over a year ago.
Yeah.
Before the BJC last year.
Yeah.
And I also want to do a review of the rings that I've been using now. The cathedral juggling rings.
Yeah.
I've been using them for a year and a half as well.
Okay.
So I want to maybe do a review video of the rings and an explanation of what the latest version of this trick is that I'm doing.
Prop focused videos coming up.
Yeah, and then I went to the Turbo Fest, which is Quebec City, which was really good fun. People have seen the videos from that because I released them on 2 different vlogs, and also I won the fight night, which was good.
Yeah,
and I thought I was going to be number 1 in the 2024 race rankings.
But
well, at the same night that we did the fight night at Turbofest, the Aachen juggling meetup thing that they do there.
Yeah. All the small tournaments are starting.
Well, he just did a tournament and won it, and so because he had also won another tournament or came saying, it turns out Killian overtook me he overtook me before I even did the tournament in Quebec City.
Yeah.
But I didn't know about it. I didn't know about it until the next day, and I was like, "Yay! I'm first!" After getting 500 points for this tournament, which was I wouldn't say easy to win, but it was a big tournament. But yes, the level of combat in America, I was going to say Canada, but most of the people in North America, not quite as high as it is in Aachen, say, in Germany or the Netherlands or whatever.
Yeah.
So I also came second in the Volley Club, and this is another video that we're going to get to in a bit. We want to talk about not how to fix Volley Club, but what was different about Turbofest style Volley Club compared to the German/European juggling convention style of Volley Club.
Yes.
And why I really enjoy one and I don't I really enjoy watching. We'll get into this with a video. The idea being that at the moment Volley Club, the way that Germans in the play, in Germany and at the European Juggling Convention, has optimized the fun out of Volley Club.
Yes.
And
it's a full commitment.
Yeah, and it's a 2 to 3 day commitment to take part and to win a Volley Club tournament.
Yeah.
And that is one style of tournament or event that you can do.
Yeah.
Which takes many, many rounds and it takes many, many hours. The other way to do it is more of a fight night thing where it takes an hour and a half to do qualifications and then an hour and a half for the show. Yeah. And it all can happen in one day. And it's more of a spectacle.
Yeah.
It can be a spectacle all the way through.
Oh, I hate my brain. My brain immediately goes, an analogy. I have a great analogy straight away in my head. Well, the analogy is you have Wagner operas who run for 5 hours, and then you have operettas, which are the fun short bits.
Yeah, 20 minutes and, just get through.
A bit more. An hour of entertainment.
Anyway, either way, we're going to do a video of that. I'm thinking of doing that more, not as a live stream, but set up the camera and then it can be us watching back different kinds of Volley Club, mostly just the Volley Club that we saw at Turbofest and contrasting that with what the Volley Club looks like at the EJC, and then maybe how to find a middle ground between those two, maybe,
or just two parallel running entities.
Well, either way, I'm saying, it has to appeal. It has to appeal to the players and an audience. And if the hardcore players aren't interested in this, you can then lean into it being an audience viewing experience.
Yeah.
Either way, we're going to do a video about that, and I've got some other video ideas as well, which I will get to in the course of this discussion, because I want to now talk about the next step, which was after doing all of that and putting out those videos, then it was time to do the results of the top 40 jugglers.
The presentation.
Let me just have a look. Let me go over to my Instagram, because this is where I was posting the votes as I went through.
Yeah.
So what do I need to do? I click on my name, I guess. That'll get me to the right page. Yeah. So scroll past the Fight Night combat results. Oh yeah, after I did that, I managed to catch up with all the Fight Night results and things as well.
Yes. They had kind of bunched up a bit as well.
Yeah, well, here we go with the reels. So what was the first thing? Okay, so here's the thing. I did the vote counting, and I don't really need to go too much into the vote counting or the voting process.
It went, from my perspective, pretty smooth this year.
Yeah, and it's really handy to just say, this is not a democracy.
Yeah.
This is not a rigorous voting. Like, I am using the votes that people submit to compile the top 40 list, which means I do as best as possible to count all the votes that everybody wants me to count.
Yes.
But when there is some vote stuffing or when there is some suspicious things and suspicious patterns, I have zero qualms about not counting those towards the final results.
Yes, and anybody who ever runs any sort of thing like this will come up with this kind of like, you will have to make decisions.
Yep.
And I think it is totally fine, because this time it wasn't like, there was some bits and pieces, but it wasn't like too tricky or like too subtle or too open or too, it was I looked at it.
And it looks like the voting was mostly fair, except for the obvious unfair voting. And if people look back through, if people care enough to be listening to this and care enough to look back through the votes, you'll see who the people who were voted for who didn't make it onto the chart. And I have no problems with that at all, because again, and I reiterate, this project is my project, but also I do it on behalf of the juggling world for the people who are being nominated and voted for from within the juggling world, and the people who are voting from within the juggling world. And it's the juggling world is very small. You know, you were just mentioning to Beam before, like, oh, you've only got like 8,000 followers on Instagram. No, what is it?
On YouTube. You have it's about 8,600 YouTube subscribers.
Yeah, 8,600.
Pretty impressive, that number is.
Yeah, I'm at, and pretty much the same on Instagram as well.
Yeah.
So between 8,000 and 9,000 followers.
Yeah.
Is it followers? Yeah, followers on Instagram and subscribers on YouTube.
Yep.
But here's the thing. I like to think, again, it's not really true, but I like to think about those 8,000 people are the 8,000 interested jugglers, like jugglers who are interested in the juggling world. If you follow me on YouTube, you get to see Volley Club, Fight Night, conventions, top 40 jugglers, plus other random stuff, and other videos that I put out, like video essays about the juggling world. Yeah. You know, big tricks compilations, which are the stuff about the juggling world, and also my own juggling.
Exactly.
Know, but it's like I am here trying to reflect the world of juggling, the subculture of juggling. And so the top 40 jugglers is for that. And also, if one of my top 40 jugglers things only gets like, you know, each one of these is getting like on Instagram, what is it like? It's like 15,000 views for each one of these things. What's that? 14,000, 16,000, 13,000. Yeah. So each one of these things is getting about 15,000 views.
Yeah.
That is about the size of the juggling world that care about the juggling world. Like,
about this project.
That's the number of jugglers who care enough about other jugglers to be involved in the juggling subculture and juggling world.
Yeah.
Who can then watch my videos and keep up with the top 40 results and then go and look at the top 40 jugglers of 2003. What's that like? Yeah, 4,000.
23.
Well,
you just said 2003.
Oh, 2023. Yeah. Yes, because I've been doing this for many years now. So, I'm totally happy with that. The number of votes were good this year.
Yeah.
And the number of...
Do you have a concrete number there, or...?
Well, it's a bit tricky because I've always put down, like, how many voters there were. Yeah. But haven't really been consistent with it.
Yes,
so
I understand.
1 year I put down, there was 643 people voted. That was in 2020.
Yeah.
And then in other times it's like higher or lower, but some of them I've sometimes I've counted the total numbers before I discarded voters or blocked them or got rid of all the people who were voting for, who was that French kid? I can't remember. Either way, there was I haven't consistently checked.
You haven't always taken the same number as the baseline number. Yeah.
Which is a bit here. So, but this year, there were let me have a look here. There were 634 individual jugglers voted for.
Okay, so these were the people appearing that were people voting for these people.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, for example, here, Zach Anderson got 1 vote.
Yeah.
You know, Yaron Davidovich got 1 vote.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, counting everyone who got at least 1 vote, it was like 600 and something people there as well. And then, yes, all the way up to the number 1 juggler, Spencer Androli. He got almost 200 votes.
Okay.
So was out there quite a way ahead. So I predicted in April, May last year, we did a podcast which was called Juggling Rivalries. And it was talking about how, like, healthy, friendly juggling rivalries, where you get 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 people all aiming for the same thing, push each other to do better or to achieve something, or push each other so at least one of them achieves something. And the context of that was like the numbers juggling league, where we're like, hey, we're doing a competition, but it's not really a competition because you're not actually competing against anyone else, but you're setting like joint goals. You're
encouraging yourself with the group.
So it's like using the peer pressure, using the group dynamics, and like, hey, they're trying to get 20 catches of 8 clubs or whatever it was going to be. And
everybody, when somebody achieves something, everybody's happy for like, everybody is like saying, wow, you got it.
So
that's
I was
great.
saying definitely before the end of the year, someone is going to break the 8 club world record, which currently is 16 catches.
Okay.
And it was like, well, that's obviously going to happen before the end of the year because too many people are trying to do that kind of stuff. Too many people are working on it. And that's exactly what happened.
Right.
Moritz Rosner got that.
Okay.
But also I said back then that this kind of rivalry of like 2 people pushing each other means that they will probably be number 1 and number 2. And that's exactly what happened here. Number 1, Spencer Androli. Number 2, Kaito Tanioka. And I kind of called it back then. And then at the end of the year, I was like, Spencer's not going to not win the top 40 jugglers of the year, which I'm really proud of him. Well, not really proud of him because, again, he's bigger than the top 40 jugglers this year, what he's doing. Like, he had a whole documentary about him and he performed at lots of juggling conventions and he's become like a professional juggler. Like, he's doing regular shows, very
active in the community this year as well. Like,
and he was one of the ones who was most upset like when in 2020, when the rule was like, only a maximum of 5 men, a maximum of 5 women being that you can vote for. He was kind of upset about that, and kind of I didn't like say it at the time, but like my brain response at the time was like, no, you're going to be fine. Just juggle. You just keep doing what you're gonna. You just keep doing what you're doing. And you'll get there. Probably, most likely. And he has. And it's great. It's fine. Everything's cool. But then I was thinking, oh no, sometimes that doesn't happen. I think, just keep going. Don't try and do vote stuffing and you'll do fine. Like Zach McAllister, apparently he told me that like back in the day, he was like getting his mother and his brother and his he was trying to get people to vote for him. And even then he only got to like number 30 in the chart or whatever. But then he didn't need to. All he had to do was just keep doing stuff. And he was like number 2 and 3 and 4 in the chart for a while. Never actually got to number 1, but he was there. So,
because this is reflective of like your online presence, your presence in conventions, in shows, in workshops, in all kinds of things. So it's just by default, the more consistent you are going to be. I mean, it's not by default, but there is like a formula that you can like definitely see. Like if you're putting yourself out there, if you are showing your skills, if you have a vision or an idea of something, you're putting it out. Online at the moment, of course, is a good place
way to get it.
It's an easier place to
start.
You
say that. Let's talk about kind of the shape of the results. We talked about who's number 1, Spencer Androli, of course, because he's kicking ass. And also we met him last year at the BJC.
We did.
He's a really nice guy.
Very nice.
And really good performing. The level of juggling that he's doing. So cool. Here's one thing that somebody said in one of the comments, which was, it's really interesting to see that you started this chart in 2003 and now it's 2023. So it's 20 years later. Like, what are it'll be interesting to compare the levels of the jugglers. And I was like, okay, who was number 20 this year compared to who was number 20 in 2003? Sort of like average on the chart. back to the average on the chart. But I do think that, and I mentioned this before, is that this not this rivalry, but this kind of like step up in skill level of juggling, where like I've been doing these big trick videos for the last few years, and it was like, these are big tricks, but we all know they're not the biggest tricks of all time because Anthony Gatto was doing this in 2010. Anthony Gatto was doing tricks bigger than these tricks, but these are the biggest tricks recently. And then it's sort of like, here's a trick that Anthony Gatto did, but now these other people have matched Anthony Gatto. And then last year it was like, now people are doing the tricks that Anthony Gatto did, but just doing like one extra bit, like he did, this many back crosses with 7 clubs, and now people have managed to do better than that with 7 clubs. And now it's not even a question now, after 4 years of me doing these big tricks videos. It's like, it used to be, like, I might even say this because I'm probably going to make this video in the next few months, is that it used to be that we were always comparing ourselves to Anthony Gatto, but nobody was quite as good. Whereas now we can compare these jugglers to Anthony Gatto and they're better. Like, they got more catches with 8 clubs than Anthony Gatto. They are doing, instead of Anthony Gatto doing a 7 club pirouette, these guys are doing, like, Kaito and Spencer and some others. They're doing, like, tricks and then a side swap in the trick and then going back into it. Like, doing the side swap. They're doing side swap variation 7 club pirouettes.
It's insane.
You know what I mean?
But so basically the Anthony Gatto baseline is kind of like
the
losing.
Benchmark.
Yeah.
These jugglers are matching him now.
Yes.
Like what Anthony Gatto was doing on stage that nobody else could do on stage. These days, not everybody is doing everything that he did on stage, but these days, people are matching that juggling that he did. Like Spencer, like I say, Anthony Gatto did 1 minute of 7 club juggling on his like second attempt at a juggling convention. And then this at a BJC in 2000, and literally 23 years later, at the BJC again, the same weekend, the same day or whatever it was, Spencer Androli in a competition, numbers juggling competition, juggled 7 clubs for over a minute on his first or second attempt. I can't remember what it was. And I'm like, that's it. We're back at that level. Or jugglers now, it's taken 23 years, but jugglers have caught up with what could Anthony Gatto do on demand in front of jugglers in 2003. Spencer can now do. No, sorry, in 2000. In 2023.
20
Spencer,
years later.
23 years later, other jugglers are kind of matching that level of what he could do. And everyone, like, there was always individuals who could match one thing that Anthony Gatto could do. But when it comes to 7 club juggling, nobody could do it. Like, again, it's that same, like, that rivalry, like, very mild rivalry between Vova Galchenko and Anthony Gatto. Like when they were trying to do like pirouette competitions and who could do 7 club pirouettes and stuff. And it was only those 2 back then. And now there's like a new, like there's like a new level or a new, some new rivalries can like push the jugglers to share bigger and bigger tricks. And like I'm saying, like Spencer Androli does the DB97531 with clubs. Who else could do that?
I don't know.
Nobody at the moment. And also, I don't think Anthony Gatto would do that trick. Maybe he could learn it, but Anthony Gatto didn't spend his entire life practicing ball side swaps and club side swaps to be able to get to the point where he would work on a trick like that. I'm not saying he couldn't do it if he tried, but he never tried, so that's what we can do. Like, there's so many things that I could learn if I tried, but I don't because I concentrate on, other things.
Of course. And then like the focus has shifted a bit in that respect, that is now an important thing that people now do. And now onto a different topic. Is that okay? Well, it's always like this kind of like, let me rephrase that. There's like, people look at this chart and they say, it's only the technical jugglers, mostly, whatever.
No, it isn't. It's all kind
I
of
think
jugglers.
this year is also a really...
let's talk about that, the shape of the chart. You said before, like, how to get on the chart is by putting out a lot of stuff and do good stuff and people will vote for you. The other thing is, like, I was just looking back through some previous results and I was looking back through, like, some previous videos. And always, between, like, 30 and 20... there's always like some jugglers who just do some side swaps and pirouettes and numbers juggling, which is totally fine. Nothing wrong with that. But if you're just good at side swaps and pirouettes and numbers juggling with balls, you can get onto the chart just by appealing to the people who also like that kind of stuff.
You can glom onto it?
No, not glom onto it. You're just the latest person who doesn't contribute anything wider than that, but is just really good at numbers juggling and side swaps and pirouettes with balls.
Okay.
And again, I'm not diminishing any of these people, but I was just looking back through these previous, from 2008 and 2009, 2010, and there's in that area of the chart, I'm like, oh, I don't remember this person at all. Why don't I remember them? Because at the time they were just the best person who could do some 7-ball side swaps with some pirouettes. Again, nothing wrong with that, but that's one way to make the chart.
Okay.
Another way to actually get to the top of the chart, which 2 jugglers have demonstrated is possible, is Lauga Benjaminson and the Israeli juggler who also pirouetted. So they kind of pirouetted themselves to the top of the chart.
Yeah.
Let me just go to the
Ofek.
Yeah, Ofek, that's it. So when you actually look at how they got to the top of the chart, not how they got to the top of the chart, but if you were to say, what does Ofek and Lauga Benjaminson have in common? That they can beat Wes Peden to number 1. They can take Wes Peden's spot before Wes Peden reclaims it the next year or the year after. And the way to do that is by being the best at pirouettes.
Yeah.
Like, throw them up, do lots of spins, and you have to also be a nice person, put out some good videos, got some good edits and all that kind of stuff, but it's possible to pirouette your way to the top of the top 40 jugglers of the year.
Yeah.
You don't only have to be like, Spencer and Delaney Bayliss, who are just crazily good technical jugglers.
Yeah, and I think, part of this always will show technical juggling because that is just impressive.
Yes.
It is just impressive.
It is the most impressive.
But also I think there's all kinds of other juggling things that are being represented on this chart, I think.
Kind of. So
we have a bit of the rolly club, swingy club, roll it over the shoulder and the knees and the traps and the whatever. And,
but let's talk about the hierarchy of juggling.
No, please
No. Look, it's funny to. No, I'm just thinking it's fun to talk. Maybe we'll do another video or another topic about where poi juggling or poi swinging fits in the hierarchy of juggling. But there definitely is a hierarchy of juggling. Okay, and you can see it by what gets the views or whatever like that. And again, I'm generalizing a lot here, but club juggling is the top. Ball juggling is second, of the hierarchy of the different types of props.
Yes.
That's just how it is. Next up, you could say it's ring juggling, but I would say at the moment probably hoops and diabolo and ring juggling are kind of a bit more equal there.
Yeah.
And you can tell this by, say, who gets booked to do an EJC show. You're definitely going to get some ball juggling. You're definitely going to get a club juggler. And then on top of that, you might get a ring juggler, but these days you're just as likely to get a hoop, a hoop juggler or a diaboloist.
Yeah.
And then below that is devil stick, cigar box, poi, and some other things like that, And I'm not saying it's not possible for being, to get to the top 40 jugglers to be featured in a show with one of these things which are lower down the hierarchy, and then below that is flower sticks. Flower sticks are below devil sticks. And shaker cups are down there as well.
Yeah.
But again, I'm not saying, but I was, again, looking back through some of these results, diabolists, there used to be 5 or 6 diabolists on every chart. And these days, there is not. And I think it's because the props that are higher up the hierarchy, if you want to say, has got more interesting and more diverse. It used to be being a good club juggler was being good at technical club juggling.
Yeah.
Or you would do club swinging. And it was difficult to make it onto the chart as a club swinger. But now, all that club swinging technique and flow has made it into juggling via, that kind of deconstructed juggling where you're not actually doing juggling patterns so much as holding 3 clubs and doing throws and catches and body moves and movement and flow in between.
But also I definitely want to intersect here because I think what happens is that it is not exclusively that. It's not people who never use the clubs and the clubs never leave their hands.
Yeah.
It is a combination of
that's what I'm saying.
Things.
The flow of club swinging, which this is what it used to be. at juggling conventions in 2000, you would have a club swinging act at a juggling convention. And sometimes you still do that, where somebody would do a whole thing and never let go of the clubs.
Yeah.
And all the jugglers would be like, okay, that's fine. But it was kind of almost a stand-in for poi.
Yeah.
Whereas now you would get like 90% of the feeling of club swinging, but because they're letting go and do it, they still have the same flow.
Yeah.
Actually more flow than club juggling, but like a different, like, again, it's just a different vibe, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I think that a lot of things that used to be, I don't know, like not off to the side, but like a separate thing, and now just accepted as part of club juggling in a way which it wasn't quite so much.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
I still have a slight, like the word hierarchy.
Just saying, I didn't come up with it.
I'm not saying it's you or whatever, but the tricky thing about using the word hierarchy is always that it has so much baggage and weight and connotation.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yes, but what I want to say is that it is just also an interest, or things can shift, and also what I'm trying to say is that it isn't like the club in its thing has any. It's not. It's a thing that people voluntarily are happy to pick up and do stuff with.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So it is not an external deciding. Okay. Yeah. You know.
The popularity is people pick up clubs and like to juggle them.
That's it.
Yeah, and this is a popularity contest. So here's the thing. What I'm trying to say here is that, like, there is diversity in the juggling world, and if we want to talk about what is diversity, and if the top 40 jugglers is reflecting what's popular in the juggling world, at the moment, balls and clubs are going to be way overrepresented here.
Yes.
And also different styles of juggling. You know, a few years ago, it was lots and lots of jugglers who were doing like foot juggling with quite a lot of foot jugglers with balls.
Yeah.
And also there's lots of like club rolling within stuff in here as well. Yeah, so that's one of those things, sort of like sometimes and it goes in cycles. Now you can get, like, over the last few years, there's been some hoop people on the chart, whereas like in 2010, of course, no hoop jugglers, because hoop juggling wasn't a big enough part of, like, there was hula hoop, which were people doing, swirling, whirling, doing the 5 split and things like that, where they would just be doing a hula hoop act. Yes. And a hula hoop act is now different from a hoop juggling act.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
And so diversity. One kind of diversity is what's represented from the juggling world, and the other diversity that people are saying,
props.
There's prop diversity in the juggling
diversity
world, but also then there's like nationality diversity and like worldwide representation diversity.
Yeah.
And lots of Chilean jugglers, lots of South American jugglers, quite a few more Japanese jugglers, lots of Europeans, lots of North Americans, and Latin Americans, like, Mexicans, and quite a few Chilean jugglers as well.
Yeah.
Again, it reflects the people who vote for it.
Yes.
Who vote on this chart.
Yeah.
There was a devil stick vote. I wouldn't say vote stuffing kind of thing, but there were a group of maybe 15 or 16 devil stickers who obviously got together and were like, let's get a devil sticker on the chart.
Yeah.
And they almost did it. And again, it wasn't so much vote stuffing, but it was, again, it's sort of like these people wanted to get someone onto the chart.
Yeah.
And they almost got someone onto the chart, which I'll talk about in a second. I'm sorry, devil stickers. You have to find more. Next year, find more devil stickers, or pick who you want the devil sticker to be, and then get them on the chat. But no, but then you can't vote for anyone else. I mean, it was good that they kind of only put their votes in for the devil stickers. Either way. So not quite a devil sticker on the chart. I think there's only been one of them. Two of them.
To be honest,
what's
at
that?
The EJC, there were quite a few little bits of battles going on here and there, and competitions and this kind of stuff. They did have a really like a showcase
of devil stick
stuff. Keep going, keep doing this, and then you will have
have your own thing.
You will spark an interest.
Yeah,
that's how you can do it.
So I think a good spread. So bringing it back, though, of course, some people are disappointed that there isn't the rule of maximum 5 men, maximum 5 women. And I actually now like this better. Of course, we don't have 19 men and 21 women or whatever it was like in 2020.
Yeah,
but
that
again,
number
looking
has
back
gone
at
down
the results,
again.
2009, 2010, one one female juggler out of 40.
Yeah.
And now we're up to, I think, 11 or 12, or down again to 11 or 12.
Yes, we're down again.
But here's the thing, and this is the playoff. So, and this was a criticism when I did that rule experiment in 2020, which was like, oh, great, 50% women, but no diabolists on the chart anymore. And I was like, you know what? I get that. I get the upsetness of that, because when you make a thing like this, which is like appealing to equality, which isn't now again, it's not diversity, because male and female isn't diversity, but it is equality, or whatever you want to say in that way. Equal representation doesn't mean diversity.
No.
And it's tricky to bring in this kind of like social politics into the juggling world. But here's the thing, because that was so appealing to a lot of people, are like, yay, we can vote for women. It's going to be great. We're going to have lots of women voting for it. But suddenly that appealed a lot to a lot of Americans. Again, no problem about this. But it did mean that like 7 out of the top 10 jugglers in 2020 were American.
North American,
yes. As in from the United States. Actually, let me quickly look it up here. Where am I looking for it here? So, again, this is just off the top of my head. Delaney Bayliss, Taylor Glenn, Zach McAllister, Wes Peden, Lisa Knott, Spencer Androli, Erin Stevens, Jack Denger. So that's like 7 out of the top 10. So Maggie Russack
is Australian.
Annie Cooper is German. And Lisa is Dutch.
Yes.
And then, so 3 non-Americans and 7 Americans.
North Americans.
And like from the United States of America.
Yeah.
Including the top 4 in a row. So, again, I'm not saying anything is bad about having 7 out of the top 10 Americans there. But what you optimize for means, like, you know, what kind of thing you're optimizing for means that some people will be represented higher than others. Because if you're like, oh, we just like, there should be a certain quota of devil stickers and a certain number of diabolists, it's sort of like, okay, but by saying we need that many diabolists, we know where the top 3, 4, 5 diabolists in the world come from. You know, it's going to be,
probably
okay.
Taiwan.
Yeah, so it's sort of like, okay, so if we're going to have at least 5 diabolists, it means we're going to have at least 4 Taiwanese diabolists and Ronnie from England or whatever it's going to, you know, I'm just using this as an example.
And Robin Spinelli.
Yeah. Or if you say, oh, we're going to need this many, this or this many, like anytime that you bring in quotas, you're going to over-represent, by putting the thumb on the scale, is going to over-represent other people. Like, again, that can, if you want
and then somebody else won't be on the chart for that reason.
And so that's the thing, sort of like, yes, 50% women on the chart, but also 70% Americans in the top 10. Do the 70% of the Americans in the top 10 represent the juggling world as, like, what's the balance there? Is 50% of the chart being female a better representation of the juggling world than 70% of the top 10 coming from the United States of America?
Yeah.
I'm not saying one is better than the other, but in that way, I put my thumb on the scales in terms of like female representation. Yeah. And by doing so, I wouldn't say accidentally, because I knew going into it, it was gonna like I would have other. I knew it was gonna have other things, and it's sort of like, yes, 50% females, but also no diabolists. An over-representation of foot jugglers, because again, a lot of the top foot, like the foot juggling is like more popular. Like women jugglers, it's kind of
take that up.
Yeah, they take it up because it's a fun thing.
Because they're good at it.
They're good at it.
I like it.
It's not numbers and base, but it's still technically really difficult and impressive. Yeah. Women's hips are just more flexible. You know, it's than male hips as well. Again, I'm not saying that as a sexist thing, but it's just one of those things. You know, there's a reason why can dancers are female. Kicking their legs up high, like it's just one of those things, which is sort of like, there are different advantages.
And also what again plays into this is all the society, like, and the like, just how women grow up, are treated, grow up thinking, oh, this is how I need to behave, and often it's just a different kind of the way that women are visible, the way that they present themselves. If, you know, they get criticized for one or the other, and then they're too bold, too bossy, too whatever, too pleasant, too sexy. There's a lot of you know, things that women have to adhere to, and men generally just don't as much. They can be a comedy juggler, they can be numbers jugglers, they can be swingers, they can be all kinds of things without being judged.
Spinners.
Yes.
Let's say spinners rather than swingers.
No, that's not what I meant.
I know.
All
right. So let's move on from the. Actually, I looked at 2022 when it wasn't male and female, and also the top 4 is still American.
North American. It has to be clear because we do have lots of South and.
Look, if I'm saying they're Americans, I'm not talking about Latin America, Central America, or Canada, or maybe Canada in there. But again, I'm using. The country is called the United States of America. It's America. It's American. It's difficult to say. I know I can upset South American jugglers by saying Americans and talking about, again, it's just the way that language works at the moment.
Yeah.
In the future, the language might be different, and you can look back at stuff I'm saying in 2023 and cancel me in 2030 because the language has moved on since from there. Either way, I'm just saying that I like the fact that now it's got to the point where we do have a bit more. So different things. So here's the top 10: America, Japan, France, America. Where's he from? Chile, another Chilean, South American. Japan, Germany, Norway. I'm just saying it just feels a little bit more
internationally represented.
Yeah, not just, Western Europe and North America. Yeah. There is a bit more going on there.
Yeah.
So that is fun.
So how many women do we have on the chart in 2023?
Like 11 or 12.
11 or 12. Okay.
Yeah. Which I think is great. Again, it would be great if it was 50-50, but
or even more, but that's just not how it works.
Yeah, it's just in the end, it's sort of like I see that at a juggling convention, it's about 50-50 of the representation, but in this way, I'm trying to put my thumb on the scales a bit less, and this is how it's equaling out.
Yeah.
Which is more than one woman on the chart in 2009 and 2010.
I think just by doing this experiment, it has changed people's mindsets a little bit, and I keep getting or seeing comments and hearing people saying that actually happened has changed my perception of or I reflected on my own thinking in this way. And also I think people really appreciate first of all seeing new people that they haven't seen before, and also having a more different things that they can see.
I just want to say Berlin Jugglers represent Bo right there.
Yay.
Number three.
Again,
I'm not sure he can ever get to number 1 because he's not a club juggler. And I know that's weird to say this, but it's really...
for number 1.
It's really difficult to get to number 1 without being a club juggler. It has been done, like I say, but they also needed to be pirouette jugglers, like Lauger doing his ball and ring pirouettes.
Oh, that would be a fun thing to look at, all the 20 years of chart and see...
Look at these ones here.
See who hasn't been...
Anthony Gatto, club juggling. Jason Garfield, club juggling. Thomas Dietz, also club juggling. Lauger, he's got clubs in his hand. Ofek, balls, clubs, and clubs. So Ofek is the only juggler
with balls
who managed to get to number 1 without club juggling being a big part of their juggling. So again, I'm not trying to say anything, but there is definitely a hierarchy, and clubs is at the top. Right. Oh, and also Isadora as well. She's from Chile, and she's there at number 6, highest ranked woman on the chart this year.
Yeah.
And the highest. No, she's not the highest new entry because she was on the chart last year at number 40. I think she was. But to jump from 40 to number 6,
very good
going.
Yeah.
So I'm happy with the voting. I'm happy with the shape of the chart. I would love to see more Diabolists on the chart.
Yeah.
But when you look at it, sort of well, who of these jugglers would I bump off to put in which Diabolist would I put there above, or devil stick juggler above there? So normally what I do in the voting is I wait until the end and I cast my votes, and I try and make sure that my vote doesn't I'm not changing the positions of jugglers in the vote. I don't mind if there's a tie break or whatever like that, but I try and make sure that it doesn't. And this year I did. I voted for Sophia. And it turns out if I would have voted for literally 7 other jugglers, there were 7 other jugglers that if I would have voted for them instead of Sophia, they would have been on the chart instead of Sophia. Sophia Altmans. So that's kind of the reason why my first video was these 7 jugglers, and normally I wouldn't do it, but it was really, really close. I'm not saying that they had the same number of votes. What I'm saying is that the way that the tie breaks work is that who had the votes last year compared to this year. whoever had fewer votes last year than this year, if there's an equal number of votes, whoever had fewer votes last year, so it kind of it helps the people going onto the chart rather than the people who are
up. Helps going up.
It helps people going up the chart rather than like who are growing in popularity than people coming down. And the confluence of that, which it's because I'm not looking back at all of these to say who of these 7, like I didn't even look at like if I vote for any one of these 8 jugglers, they got onto the chart. Like it was too far down. Like it wasn't close enough, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And those last votes that came in. But yes, so I in this case did make a friend of mine get onto the chat. Well, it's not a friend because I just like her juggling. She's really fun to like her daily challenges and choreography stuff at the EJC. I really enjoy and following along with her performing. Sophia got onto the chart at number 40 there, but it could have been these other jugglers. So I just want to give a shout out to. Oh, I need to scroll down quite a way here. Yes, Alejandra Parada, who was a devil sticker, she could have been on there as well. Annie Cooper, she's been on the chat for a while though. Ayala Eshkoli from Israel. Glubia, who was a Tomoto kind of ball juggler.
Yeah.
Kellen Quinn been on the chart. Lisa been on the chart. Tony Pezzo been on the chart, but not for a while. But he started posting some bits and pieces.
Yeah, he did.
He was like one of those people who got to like number 2 or 3 on the chart, but never number 1.
Yeah.
So I said in no order, but that's actually just alphabetical by first name. But so they were all within 1 vote switch away from being 40, 39, or 38.
Yes.
So
this is why then you decided to put out
I just want to give a shout out. Like, look, not just to them, but like to anyone. Like, literally 1 vote can make a difference. And again, this time out, it was my vote, but it wasn't my vote. It was like again, it's the aggregate. But in this case, I felt like because I always make sure my vote is last. Like I always
you're trying really hard to have all this in your mind and stuff.
Yeah.
And sometimes,
but it's normally easy
happen.
when there's like 3 people tied for 41st or 40th, and I'll be like, well, I'm just not going to vote for any of them. I'll vote for someone else further up or below, for either above them or below them, to not kind of mess that up.
Yeah.
So that's it. And then I presented the bits, and sometimes I've done individual videos per juggler. Last year, I kind of had sort of like, I was doing like 2 videos per day of 4 jugglers. And this time I was like, look, it's already late, or not already late. Like I'm not trying to finish on New Year's Eve or New Year's Day. It's already January. I'm just going to put some work into this. And so I released 1 video per day with 5 jugglers, which meant 8 videos plus 9 videos, plus the 9th because of these extras. And then plus an extra video. So instead of doing the top 5, no, how did I do it? Either way, I did some extra videos for the top 2 or 3. Oh, for the top 2, yeah. So at the top 5, I did 1 video with Bo, Wes, and Valentin Lopez. So I could give the people in the top 5 a bit more time, because I've only got a minute and a half in an Instagram reel.
Yeah.
So I gave each one of those a bit more space, and then the final video was Kaito versus Spencer, like 7 club trick battle. It's kind of what I meant. I could have included other juggling, but I was like, oh no, I'm just going to include 6 and 7 clubs for the top 2 top 40 jugglers.
Yeah. And also in comparison to previous years where you had literally like, I don't even know, 4 different video formats that you compiled, like you did the vertical and the story and a horizontal and
which does and also before I did 1 video each, and then I would send a vertical video to the person, and then they would announce it in their Instagram stories who the following person was going to be.
So much work.
It's so much work, and this time I was like, I'm gonna get ahead of these and I'm just gonna work on them. And it would have been impossible to do during the work trip that I was on and flying to actually I was flying to Turbofest, flying to Canada. I was like, let me get in this and I'll start doing some editing, and I did it like a little bit, and I'm like, no, I actually just have to be sitting in front of my new monitor that I have here and just working on it in the office, because it's just too much work. A proper
workstation setup.
Which I could do in these COVID years, or whatever times.
Yeah.
Or when it was new, and I'm like, like 4 videos per day, individual, and you can rack up views and likes and stuff. But I didn't post on Twitter, didn't post on YouTube as I went along, didn't post on Facebook. I just kept it to Instagram and built the hype there, because that's kind of where the juggling world lives at the moment. What's my other thing here as well? Didn't spread it around. Oh yeah, the music. Last year I was working on the music and I created all the music from scratch.
Yeah.
And I always intended to do another step like a next step with the music to kind of, because before then I'd done like the top 40, like in 2021. I'd done like I went back and did a rap again 10 years later, whatever it was, and recorded a new up, down, in or out, who gives a shit kind
a new original thing.
Yeah, and I went back and did that kind of stuff because I thought that's like, it's kind of time to do that. And last year I was wanting to not do that, but I was wanting to do something a bit more and have some voiceover stuff. And in the end I didn't. And it was just some music, which was fine, and now that video has, the top 40 jugglers of 2022 has got lots of views. I was just looking up here. I got it to see. But yes, it's got many views. It's got enough views of let me just type 2022. It's got 33,000 views. Like it's
on YouTube.
The video on YouTube is good and the music is fine.
Yeah.
And I'm happy with the music.
Yeah.
But it was just like I'd made some music already for my magnet juggling routine. And then I made it like I was going to say, and then at the end of that, I want like some applause music. And so I made like a high energy version of my magnet juggling machine music. And you were like, you should use that for the top 40 jugglers. And I was like, yeah, okay, I will. And so so it wasn't even music that I'd written specifically for it. It was kind of like this temporary music that then became the final music.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was, it's fine. But I was like,
nothing special.
I want it to sound a lot better.
Yeah.
And I didn't have the energy to make the music myself. And so I just signed up for Epidemic Sounds, which is, a music service which you can just pay them $100 for the year or however much I paid them. And then I can use their music video library royalty free, copyright claim free on YouTube. Not that my YouTube is demonetized at the moment, but I could just use the thing, sort of like I can post it on Instagram, I can do live streams with it, and I can do that. So I just found some music which with the energy that I wanted. And then I was going to say, and then I just used that music, but it doesn't work that way. No, you
didn't.
It doesn't,
really didn't.
Because what you do is you download what they call the stems or something, which is like the drum track, the bass track, the instrumental track, and the other, there's always 4 tracks. So you can then like edit it to be individually. And so I did that for each one of those. So it wasn't just a whatever. And then I picked 3 of those pieces of music. And then for the final video, re-edited. Oh, there's a little fly here. I re-edited the music again for the final video to fit it all in there as well. So
to fit it with the visuals.
And I had some really great feedback for great music, rocking music. And it had an energy which I could provide for it with music that I write myself. And last year it felt like it was there at the start, but then when you're like, and now this bit of music is being used for 10 videos in a row, and then in the end another 5-minute video, and it's sort of like, oh no, one bit of 5 minute, 6, it's difficult to keep the energy up through a 6-minute piece of music.
Definitely.
And so I was like, okay, I can just use 4 pieces of music. And have each video, a few bits of music for each video. So I'm happy with my decision. Thank you very much to all our Patreon supporters. That was literally what I spent the money on for last month, is I'm like, I'm just going to invest in music. And I'm going to use more of that in these videos that I got coming up. It's really handy just to have like a professional level music provider.
And you can definitely tell the difference.
Yeah. And like I say, just for this, juggling around the world, my international juggler clip from the clips last year, I was like, sea voyage music, typed it in and got some fun, fake Pirates of the Caribbean soundtrack music, soundtrack music, whatever. So that's good fun. What else? Yeah. And it was good, successful. And I'm glad people liked it. Lots of comments, 32 comments on that. And
How many views is there now on Instagram?
Like 15,000 per clip.
Okay.
And for the final one, it's less because again, it's a 6-minute. What is it? Yeah, it's like a 7-minute video on Instagram. That's not what Instagram for. No, Instagram is good for 15 seconds to maybe a minute and a half if people are really into it. Oh, here's the other thing that I wanted to do. Years and years ago, in one of these top 40 jugglers of the year, I think 2010. Now the fly's going over to you. We're waving at each other, but we're not waving at each other. It's like, Juliane wants to say something. No, she's getting rid of a fly. So at the end of it, I remembered there was this moment at the end where it counted down to number 1, and then it went 1, 2, 3, 4, very quick clips of it counting back up to the top. And so I was saying, what do I want to do? What kind of video editing or what kind of way of presenting this do I want it to be interesting this year? And so I showed the top 5, and then at the start of each video, I spent the first 5-6 seconds counting down the jugglers up until that point to put the jugglers that you're seeing in context.
Yes.
And to kind of build anticipation.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to do that in the final video. Like as you go through, you get to number 1 or you get to number 2, and each time you're counting up with like a flashing vision. And it didn't quite work for that. It worked really well for the individual videos at the start of them.
It gives them context.
It gave them context,
nice,
and it was always like previously and now, or whatever it was. Previously on the top 40 jugglers and now, and then it would show the next people. So I really enjoyed that little like different way of editing. And then at the end, I did the same thing. Was we got to number 1. And then we count back up to number 40, and that's the way out of the video. And I did that in 2010 was the video that I did that. And so that kind of came back to me. I was like, oh, it's time to like revisit the fast clips counting down and then counting back out, back up and out of the video again.
That's nice.
And
it's a nice way of doing it.
I only made one mistake in the editing in the end.
Oh, no.
Which nobody noticed.
No.
I noticed. Nobody else did.
Of course.
And either way, happy with it. So we've talked about this now for like 45 minutes, talking about the top 40 jugglers. Yeah. Do we have anything to add, or should we just wrap it up with an hour to go?
I think it's a good thing. I think it's like this year's top 40 was, from my perspective, went smooth, had a fun presentation at the end. People liked it. Yeah. And it's good.
And there was no poi swingers in it. I'm very sorry.
Spinners. You just said swingers.
Oh, yeah, because you said swingers before. Poi spinners.
Poi spinners.
Well, it's okay to say poi swingers because people know what you mean. But if you just say swingers, people don't know what you mean.
Yeah. Yeah, and there were also kind of, like, there was no cigar box juggler.
Look, it's not, like, I'm sorry. It's just there's so for next year, lessons for let's finish up because there were a few notes that I want to say. For next year, someone said, hey, why don't you have like subtitles in different languages?
Yes.
I think that's what I want to do next year.
Okay.
Let's pick 6 languages.
Yeah.
And I'll write the script in advance because I can do it in advance because I'm just not always reusing the script, but I'm reusing the script in advance.
Yeah.
So still just one video, but if I record the video in English. Yeah. And so it's there in English. And then
you mean the voting video?
The voting video, yes. Right, so I'm only talking about voting video here.
Yes.
Voting video. Yeah. So what do you think? Again, this has probably been suggested. We've probably even talked about this on previous podcasts about this.
Yes.
So I can have it in, let's say we do it in English.
Yeah.
Spanish. Yeah. French.
Yeah.
German, maybe? I'm just going for European languages at the start. Like, what are the world languages? Probably not even German needed because enough Germans speak English or whatever. So let's say English and Spanish, Japanese, French. Yeah. And then what? Like, here's the thing. Then if I put Chinese in there, like how many Chinese jugglers? But like maybe YouTube's blocked in China, so like
Taiwanese,
Chinese, again Chinese, like again.
But this again, and now I'm saying it again here.
I'm inviting criticism of leaving out the wrong language.
Exactly.
That's
and also you're making choices. Yeah. And with your choices, you will open certain things, and you will close or forget to open certain things.
So here's the thing. How about this? I put out not a voting video, but a pre-voting video and say, if you would like your language in here, send me a message. I will include every language that someone mentions. But then again, that video would be in English. Yeah. And so people would have to see this. But why is it like that? Like, how come there's not been enough? There's only been like 2 jugglers from the whole of the continent of Africa on the chart, or 3 or 4 of them. Yeah. Compared to how many Americans, where you get 7 in the top 10 one year. Yeah. Like, and how many Germans and British jugglers there are again. So it's one of those things of like, okay, but some of those jugglers have been from South Africa, where English is one of the languages. Others have come from Ethiopia, and what's that? Like, Swahili, or is it French? Like, again, I'm not even sure. Italian? Like, what are the, what?
Arabic?
Arabic?
Yeah, I don't know.
So what languages? And so maybe I'm asking for feedback. Like, if you were going to say 5 languages to get most of it, of the world's population, like, then you've probably got to put in Arabic and Indonesian or whatever it's going to be. Yeah. But is this representing the juggling world? Or am I trying to represent the juggling world, or am I trying to represent the entire world? Yeah. That's the thing.
Yeah, it's going to be difficult. There's going to be decisions made.
So that's something to think about for next year.
Consequences. But if you think you would like to see it in your language, you need to put the work in.
No, I don't think they do need to put the work in. Nah, you just use... it's good enough for me to put something in Google Translate these days and send it off to someone and say, is this a good enough? And they say, that's fine.
Yes.
You know, because all I need to say is, here is a top 40 jugglers video.
Yeah.
You know, list your top 10 jugglers of the year below.
Yeah, there's like a
the
certain...
full names. You know, there's like it's only like 5 sentences that I need. And then other stuff on top of that where I get into like, hey, and here's the schedule and whatever it is, you know. So, yes. So maybe I could do that. So the other things that I want to fix, I want to go back. It always annoys me that I made some mistakes in the past. And this is... letting in meme votes in the past, like a meme vote, which was people started like the joke was vote for Rodney Mullen.
Yes.
Who's a skateboarder.
Yeah.
Who is an amazing object manipulator and body manipulator.
Yeah.
But it was a meme.
Yes.
Rodney Mullen didn't want to be on the chart.
But you can't fix previous mistakes.
I can.
You can.
Of course I can.
Okay.
Like, I re-released last year the Top 40 Jugglers 2014 because there was no names on the screen because I was using... it was fun to put in the... I used the YouTube annotations.
Which doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah. So now there's a video with some fun music, like, but the music isn't in... the context isn't there for the music.
Yeah.
Like, of why the music sounds like it is. It's because I edited it from scratch out of the soundtracks of the videos.
Yeah.
Every sound in the video is from the original...
I love this one.
Like,
yes.
It's really good fun.
It's
but
great.
There was no titles on the screen and there's like no context. So I re-released that video last year with the titles on the screen and the context.
Okay.
And I just look back to this thing. Those videos in 2010, 2008, 2010 and 2008 and 2010. They're in 480p.
Yeah.
And there's mistakes in them as well.
That's
so,
terrible.
for example, I included Rodney Mullen, and he got to like number 30 on the chart. And Masaki Hirano never appeared on the chart. Who's that? A Japanese juggler. Oh. He's a contact juggler, and popular. Well, I mean, I say popular. Did I? He does. He does some cool contact juggling. This is from 2016, but yeah, he's a really cool contact juggler. Yeah. And so there's been one fewer contact juggler on the chart, one fewer Japanese juggler on the chart, and also Masaki Hirano just never was on the top 40 chart because I let a meme vote get on there. Right. So should I release the top 40 jugglers of? To be honest, I can't remember what year it was, but let's have a look. Rodney Mullen was in, this is actually in 2007. So Rodney Mullen made it onto the chart, and an actual juggler didn't make it onto the chart. Do I just release that video again, but just bump everyone up a bit and then update the results? Because I know who it is. Like, I have the results. I have every vote counted back to 2003. So
that's the question. Is this
No, but I think it's good because again, it gets eyes on what the juggling scene was back then, and one person can say, actually, no, I was there as well. The other one was the two Lorenzos, two different Lorenzos from Italy. Yeah. Lorenzo. Actually, I can just look up here as well. Lorenzo Mastropietro. Was it number 16 on the chart? He should never have been on the chart. He didn't actually get that number of votes that year. Oh. He got like 6 votes. Right. In January. And then there was another Lorenzo called he went by the name of Sid and also Lorenzo. Right. And his full name was, I have it here, Lorenzo Crivellari. And the way that was counting the votes, I never got, because so many people were just like Lorenzo, and I never really differentiated
in 2007.
And this was in 2007,
yes.
And I was using a Python script to do it, and it was like the first time I was working with like how to work this spelling dictionary, and I was using like in technical term like closest approximation, and so it just like it decided that Lorenzo was one thing because some people were voting for Lorenzo, other people were voting for Sid Lorenzo, other people were voting for Lorenzo. What was the name I said before there?
Mastropietro.
Mastropietro. But nobody voted for Lorenzo Crivellari because he never went by that name. Yeah. At the time. Okay. It was Sid Lorenzo. Anyway, I messed up. Yes. Lorenzo was or the wrong Lorenzo got onto the chart and in the wrong position.
Yeah.
So Lorenzo Crivellari should have been at number 30 between Sean Gandini and Christian Van Vick, never made it onto the chart. Lorenzo, who should never have made it onto the chart that year, did.
Yeah. Is that the big text that's there?
Yeah, it literally says he didn't actually get enough. The Luke's Python, I didn't write this, but somebody else wrote this because I was talking about it at the time. Due to people voting for him using only his first name, Luke's Python script counted most of the votes for Sid Lorenzo, who should have been around number 30, as votes for Lorenzo Mastropietro. Now, since 2009, I've known that there's been this massive mistake, but I've just never fixed it, never looked into it. It's just been mentioned here on Juggle Wiki. That's the only mention that two people who should have been onto the chart never made it onto the chart because of either a mistake by me. Well, both of them mistake by me. I allowed a meme vote to make it onto the chart where I shouldn't have been allowing that. Or I just messed up the vote counting in a way which feels bad. And this year I messed up the vote counting. Well, I didn't mess up. I managed
You had an influence.
I had more of an influence than I wanted to. But that's kind of like, oh, well, it happens. That could have been anyone's vote. But this is me having more of an influence than I wanted to in a way which I think weighted the chart too much.
Okay.
Now, I'm not going to do this for every mistake. I'm not going to do it here. But this feels bad because these jugglers could have been I don't want to say it could be a life-changing thing to make it onto the top 40, but it is a huge thing for people to be like, oh yeah, I was on the top 40 jugglers of the year that year. Yeah. It can be like a fun moment. It means something in the juggling world.
It will get, a bit more of a spotlight on the old videos. Like we get to see people that probably some people have never heard of before.
And so I still probably have the files, I have all the source videos, I have all the files just sitting on a hard drive. It probably won't take me too long to make a version which isn't in 480p as the highest resolution. There was just in 2007, it was like the start of YouTube.
Yeah.
I was doing the top 40 jugglers before there was even a YouTube, which brings me to my final two things.
Yeah.
Which is future video projects. And someone said, hey, how about making a video where you compare jugglers, like the chart in 2003 to 2023 and like
I think that would be fun.
The first few years of the top 40 chart, it was just some like stuff I was writing, like the first 2 or 3 years. I just wrote up what it was and it was a creative writing project.
Yeah.
And then I did it as a podcast with me and Polo. We would talk about the top 40 and go down and just talk about the top 40 jugglers. Mm-hmm. And it was only in 2000... it went well, you can actually see it. Yeah. So 2007 was a podcast. 2008, it was the first year that I actually made a video.
Yeah.
And there's these top 40 jugglers of 2008 part 2 and then part 1. Why don't I just combine them together into a different thing at higher resolution? I can use the same piece of music. I don't even remember what music was playing there. I can probably just click on it. Welcome back to the top 40 rundown. Oh no, it's me just talking through it. This is not me.
I was just about to say, this is not you. No music.
So there's no music. It's just me talking. So it's more of a podcast.
It's so funny.
And these old clips. And again, there's nothing wrong with this. It's a very 2000. It's like 15 years ago. Yeah. Back at the time, you couldn't put up a video more than 10 minutes long.
Yeah.
And you couldn't put up a video like more than 480p.
Yeah.
But this is fun juggling history. So the idea is, can I just take these same clips because I'll have it there and just like do a fun edit for now? I'll use a piece of music from back then.
Yeah.
Or like in the 2009, it's like a piece of an edit for there as well.
Yeah.
2010, it's fine. And then 2011, like I was again late and stressed and so many people wanted another rap from me after doing the top 40 jugglers rap.
Yeah.
That I made like I kind of did a prank video, but then it stood because I was like, I'd worked on something for a really long time, all of these images, and I wanted to present it as an image.
Yeah.
And without a video, I wanted to like have graphic design, and I put so much work into then. And I was like, how quickly can I do this? And I just put up the joke video and then never actually put out the real video where I wanted to put the music there.
Yes. Yeah, that was the time when it kind of felt like people didn't appreciate the whole effort. Like it all took the effort and the time.
It was one of those times when I was like, oh, whatever, like that. And I just put it out.
And this also creating it the way you did also costs a whole lot of time. And people
I put
short,
as much work
quick.
into something, but it was a meme. And then Lauger Benjaminson doesn't have the cool top 40 jugglers of the year countdown video that he could have had.
Yes, that is true.
You know what I mean? So what do? Do I just here's the thing. Like, I would love to like I did with the 2014, which is polish these up and present them again. The originals will still be there if you want to see the originals, but just a bit more context, which I can fix some of these errors and make it just a bit more not feel more modern, but just just a slightly nicer resolution. But I can't go back to 2003 and create a video from scratch again, because so many of these jugglers, there's just not videos of them. But here's the thing that I'd like to do, which is the top 40 Jugglers Hall of Fame, which is to go through the people who are no longer on the chart and haven't really had an impact on the juggling world recently, but were the top jugglers at the time. So I think Thomas Dietz, he was the number one juggler for a year, but he was also number two juggler for 6 years. He was in the top 2 or 3 for 6 years and was number one once. But now again, he's still around. He's still juggling, but he hasn't been on the chart for 10 years or whatever. So here's an idea: top 40 Jugglers Hall of Fame. And I know I must have talked about this on the podcast before. But top 40 jugglers, someone who hasn't been on the chart for 10 years. But was in the top 10 for many years in a row. But doesn't, I don't know, something like that.
I
know
like
what
that.
I mean?
Yeah,
and
I
then
also like to include top 10. I think that's a good amount of,
So, again, it doesn't have to be anything so well thought out, but who were the jugglers back who you haven't thought about? You're I haven't thought about them for a while. It's but they're still around, maybe, but not at the top end, not at the pointy end of juggling popularity.
And also just so you know, you have this point of view, they've been 10 years ago and I haven't thought of these for a long time. There will be people who have never heard of these people before because they weren't born yet. So it's also looking back at how it was 10 years ago or 20 years ago or whatever. It's kind of reflecting on where it came from and what the level was that people were at. People went crazy for 3 club back crosses, or I don't know.
No, it's the shoulder roll. That, when these days, which is just the standard trick of rolling a club over your shoulder.
That was a huge thing.
Yeah, Toby Walker. Although Toby Walker's, he's joined Instagram now and he's putting out. Did you see the Mills the 5 club kick up to 5 club Mills Messi video? And you're well, he's making the top 40 jugglers just for that one trick. He's making the top 40 jugglers of the year.
To set the record straight, he is from
Wales.
Yes.
Come on, IJA Instagram account. Put the work in. Literally, just ask someone where they're from, or ask anyone where someone is from. Just because he's doing a balls hard club trick doesn't mean he's American. People can do that. But someone like Vova Galchenko never, he's again still around at points, but was a proper rival there at the top of the top 40 jugglers chart, but never made it there. But then Jason Garfield doesn't need that. Anthony Gatto doesn't need that. Wes Peden doesn't need that. But who else is there? And Toby Walker back in the day was high up in the chart there. Jay Gilligan doesn't need it. He's still around. He's still making the chart most years. No,
is he still in?
No, he was there this year. But no, he wasn't on the chart for 1 year. So still, the only juggler who's been on the chart for 23 years in a row
is you.
No, sorry, 21 years in a row. I'm getting mixed up. It's 2023, but it's me. But again, it's me
it's
on a chart
on your own thing.
And then other people who are at the top, Kami Aoki, maybe. But Patrick Elnert, he was another one who was at the top for a long time and then never got to, top 10 for many years in a row, but never got there as well. And who are the other people? Tony, Patrick, Horvath Feedston. He was, didn't he get to number 2?
Number 2, I remember that.
Number 2 there. Number 4. So he was number 2 3 years. But again, that was in 2006. So maybe a bit too recent to be in the top 40 Jugglers Hall of Fame. But if I induct 2 people into the top 40 Jugglers Hall of Fame every year, it can be fun. I'm thinking Thomas Dietz, Olga Galchenko,
Vova
Galchenko, And then, some of the other people from back in that 2003 to 2008 kind of time where there's no video of them in the top 40 jugglers in that same way or from that time.
Yeah.
But it might be fun to put a little compilation, a little 5-minute video to say, here's some fun juggling from back then and put it into context.
Yeah.
Other jugglers were there. These guys were at number 3.
Especially after, 2 decades of this.
Yeah.
I think it's a good time to just
it's like meta history. If Top 40 Jugglers is recording kind of what the history of the popularity of jugglers over time.
Yeah.
And again, I've got the whole spreadsheet data, but it's not database. I've got a whole spreadsheet here with all the votes there. I can kind of show what their the levels of popularity of jugglers, and then but now that's historic. Like the history, the current history is now past history. So there's an idea for the future. And the other thing that I wanted to do was we already mentioned this. The next juggling podcast episode, it was going to be how to fix Volley Club, or like what changes that could make Volley Club more appealing to take part in and watch.
Yep.
But still keep that core. But I think that might be a video instead of a podcast. And then then we'll work out what the next topic. We'll do another podcast at the end of the month, probably in a few weeks' time.
Yep.
Just think this is the January podcast, and we'll still do a February podcast. We'll get to it, people. Thanks a lot for your patience, all our Patreon supporters and subscribers.
Thank you.
You paid
the support.
It's awesome. You paid for the end of year finals for the Fight Night Combat last year.
Yep.
I paid off the last invoices there.
Yep.
And you paid for the top 40 jugglers for the music that I'm using, and that'll be using that music throughout the year. That's again it's kind of a boost for me to work on these new videos.
Yeah.
Top 40 Jugglers Hall of Fame, Ring Juggling Review, poll, Anthony Gatto poll,
top tricks things,
top thing, big tricks, Volley Club. So I've got quite a few videos that I want to work on in the next month or two. Probably 4 videos in the next 2 months or something, and hopefully and a few more podcasts.
Yeah.
More Fight Night combat content as well.
Yes.
And then, so if you're around, we're going to the Newcastle Circus Festival.
Yes, we are.
Newcastle in England, not Australia. So we're going over there. I'm performing in the show, doing some ring juggling in the show, which I'm really excited about because it'll be the first time I've performed this Anthony Gatto balance pole trick in a different context of like, I'm doing some juggling and then I do the trick, rather than telling a story about how this trick changed my life and inspired me to become a professional juggler and perform on juggling conventions.
Yeah.
And people start crying before I've even got the trick. Not do that. It's just the trick without the narrative and the storytelling around it. Just the trick. So I'm interested to see how that goes.
Yeah.
And see family and friends back in the UK. Mm-hmm. And what else after that? Maybe the NJF.
Maybe.
We're booking time off. So if I'm not working, we'll be at the NJF and then EJC as well. So that's our plans for the year.
Yeah.
Newcastle, NJF, Dutch Juggling Convention, Netherlands Jonglier Festival is what I'm saying when NJF, EJC, European Juggling Convention, and then see if I get invited to any other convention or if we go to some like small conventions in Germany or locally. Let's see how it works out. Right, that's our plans. And thanks again to Patreon supporters. And if you're not supporting, please go over to patreon.com/Luke Burridge. And that's it.
Show your appreciation.
Yes.
We enjoy that and we like it and it's really good.
By either becoming a Patreon supporter, paid or non-paid.
Yeah.
Paid, please. Thanks a lot for listening and we'll catch you next time.
Goodbye.